So let's say I'm doing a native file review and we need to redact this document. The menu bar up here contains my redaction and highlighting options. So in addition to the standard yellow highlighting, I can actually also use any of these colors in my palette. I'm going to go ahead and try blue. So next, I think I want to draw a redaction on this image. So Relativity has several different redactions to choose from. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use each one of these for this document. I'm going to go ahead and put a black redaction over this. And you'll see before I let go of my mouse button that I have transparency and I can still see the text that I added to this. I think I'm going to go ahead and add a text redaction. And if you see, we actually have a pre-configured list of terms that you can set up for the reviewers. Unicode is even an option. Or maybe in this case, I just want to right click and click edit and change it to whatever I want. I'm also thinking that that text is just a tiny bit too large, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to maybe about 10. So say here at the bottom of the page, I want to hide this address information, but I don't want anybody to know that I'm actually using a redaction. So I can actually use the white borderless redaction to cover that up. I can actually select the redactions and very easily move them using my arrow keys. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump a couple of pages. And I think I'm going to go ahead and redact everything on this page except for this first paragraph here. So I'm going to use what's called an inverse redaction. I'm going to go all the way to the last page of the document. And let's say I want to redact this entire page in black. But then, you know what, I think I'm going to print this page out eventually, so I'm probably going to want to be able to save some printer toner by using the cross. And you know what, on second thought, I think I'm going to do multiple pages. I would actually just use this little button here and then type in the 2 pages that I want to redact. I'm going to go ahead and do page 2 and this page, page 4. If you actually go back to page 2, you'll see my redaction just like I wanted it. The other great thing is you can select and delete a redaction straight on the page, or you can mass redact the entire document if you would like to, or mass delete the redactions and highlighting on the document if you'd like to. I'm going to go back to the first page, and you can also see here that this button here actually will change my markup visibility. I can make it so that I can see what's underneath it or hide it altogether. This helps when you're actually doing a QC of your redactions, so you can make sure that they're in the right place. Here in the lower left-hand corner is a drop-down that says Attorney right now. If I flip it over to the Expert, you'll notice that I have a clean slate for the same document. This is a concept in Relativity that we use as call a markup set. It allows you to create a secure subset of the documents. Our client is using these subsets in a lot of different ways. This is in this example that I'm showing, you might say that you have attorneys that are actually doing redactions and doing their work for a production, but then you might need experts to log in and you don't want them to actually interfere with the attorney work product. Or maybe you don't want them to see or interfere with each other's work product in general. Markup sets are completely secureable, and we can set them up so that the expert comes in, They're locked down just to this markup set. And they wouldn't even see this drop-down box here at the bottom. This will be a gray bar straight across, so they wouldn't even know that that functionality exists. It's a simple and effective way to build and maintain ethical walls in the system. In an IP litigation, which is most often a multi-jurisdictional litigation, the document may go out in different ways depending on the jurisdiction. We can manage that process through different markup sets. So instead of what we have here as attorney and expert, we can have markup sets named jurisdiction A, jurisdiction B, jurisdiction C, etc. There is no limit to the number of markup sets that you can have. So then, when you go to produce our records in relativity, you just pick the correct markup set that you want to produce from. We also have the markup set navigation. This allows the user to jump from annotation to annotation. The markup set navigation feature quickly shows the type of markup, the text box indication, where the annotation resides, and actually what page number it resides on. Are there any questions about redacting and markup sets before we go to take another look at tagging and coding? All right. I am going to jump back to the very first document in our database. So let's talk a little bit about tagging and coding. So you'll notice over here on the right side of the screen, we have what we call a layout in relativity. Layouts are web-based coding forms restoring the bibliographical data and metadata about the record, as well as tagging and coding structure used by the review team. They are highly customizable and completely securable from user to user and group to group. So right now I'm logged in as a power user, so you'll notice that I have quite a bit of posting forms, coding forms available to me. The form that I'm on right now is called coding, and it looks like it's concerned with a lot of the different issue tags. If we go to something like maybe the first pass reviewer, it looks like it's a very limited amount of bibliographical data. If I were a first pass reviewer, my options would likely be locked down to this coding form, and I wouldn't see all the others here on this list. I would have a vision to the forms that included the decisions that I needed to make. There are ones here for assigning documents. There's even some for privilege logs. And you'll see we have one here that's called all fields. This is all of the metadata for that record. I'm going to go back to the coding. So in this coding, we can actually place rules on these layouts that ensure the quality and consistency of the review. For example, I can make a field read-only, like the control number and the custodian field. And even though I'm in edit mode at this current time, on this form, I cannot edit those two fields. We can also set up this orange box, which means that it is actually a required field throughout relativity. So responsiveness is evidently a required decision. If I were to uncheck anything in here and try to save it, it would not allow me to do so. I have to make one of these selections to be able to move on to the next document. You'll also notice that I actually have copy from previous here at the top. These are called propagation rules. So say I know that everything is privileged, I can quickly copy from the previous all the way through. This is quite useful when batches of documents are assigned out to reviewers based on a conceptual similarity, where often the documents will be coded the same. We can also set up advanced logic on these to enforce best practices and workflow rules. Maybe this particular review, there is a rule that says at this stage a record cannot be tagged as both privileged and responsive at the same time. So if I were to actually try to take and change this to responsive and click Save Next, it would not allow me to do so. Also, the other thing we can do is actually set up where someone can take a deeper dive into perhaps maybe this privilege. If it's maybe an attorney work product, attorney client privilege, or maybe work product privilege, you can actually select multiple of these. So if they didn't select one of these subtypes, we might even be able to set up a rule that says you didn't select one of the work privilege types. You need to go back before you can save. The other great thing too is that you can actually save things as super hot, and then maybe they have to actually leave a reviewer comment to be able to save it. Or maybe we marked it as en fuego, and whenever that gets saved, it would actually send an email off to the lead partner, in this case saying something like, this document has been tagged en fuego. Here's a hyperlink, you may want to take a look. Some review platforms let you tag a record as reviewed, but we can set up some smart criteria to manage that process. So maybe, for example, if responsiveness, privilege, and confidentiality were all required in this review, we could actually mark it as, we could actually automatically flag this document as reviewed and shoot it off to a second-tiered reviewer. So what we're really trying to do is give you the tools to sit down with the case team, come up with the best practices workflow for the review, and then solidify and automate those features. This way, everyone has the decisions, documents, and information that they need in a very fluid and automated way without a ton of extraneous noise in matters that don't concern them. So are there any questions about layouts and relativity? So I'm going to finish up the core reviewer interface by talking about the related items pane, where we can put the different relational groupings about a record. Right now, I'm actually looking at the family of that document. So you can see here that I have the original email, and then all of the attachments, the Excel file, the PowerPoint, that Word document that had Korean in it, and then that document that had the track changes. So maybe I don't have those propagation rules turned on for the family. However, I know that all of these documents are responsive. What I can do is I can take a mass action on all of these documents. I can edit them, and then I can make a mass action determination right here. I could actually take and mark them all as responsive, and then I would just hit save. Here we have our duplicate information. And And this table here is actually fully customizable.